The auto industry, it's really going through it right now, wouldn't you say? Production's a mess, everyone's worried about the economy, and don't even get me started on China.
Yeah, not exactly a smooth ride.
Exactly. And that's where we come in. At the deep dive, we really love digging into these situations,
Yeah.
especially when things don't quite add up.
Looking for those hidden currents beneath the surface.
Exactly. So today we're diving deep into Mobileye's Q3 earnings call, MBLY, for those tracking at home. And let me tell you, this one threw us for a loop.
The market reaction is, well, strange to say the least. Their stock's up over 14% today, but revenue's down. It doesn't track.
Right. That's what we thought. So we've got the full call transcript right here, plus the latest stock info ready to go. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to figure out what's fueling this market optimism.
Because either investors are seeing something everyone else missed, or, well, let's just say we've got a case of wishful thinking on our hands.
We're not just skimming the surface here. We're going deep on this one.
We're talking subtle signals, underlying trends, the strategic moves that tell the real story. By the end of this deep dive, you'll know exactly what this means for Mobileye and the entire autonomous vehicle space.
No sugarcoating, no hype, just the facts. And let's be honest, the top-line numbers, they're not pretty. Revenue's down 8% year over year, and a big chunk of that is that China slump everyone's talking about. We're talking a 50% drop in their business there.
It really exposes how much their growth was tied to the Chinese market, especially for that IQ5 supervision system. Things haven't exactly panned out the way they hoped. And of course, you layer on those global production issues, it creates a very, very challenging environment.
Challenging is putting it mildly. But hold on, there's a but coming. Sequentially, there was growth from Q2. So is there actually a light at the end of this tunnel? Or is this just like a temporary blip?
Honestly, it's too soon to tell. One quarter doesn't make a trend, but it's something to keep an eye on. We need to see that upward movement consistently over the next couple of quarters to be sure.
Okay, so revenue is, shall we say, a bit unclear. But what about profitability? They're walking a tightrope right now. Margins are down a bit.
It's concerning, that margin dip, but it seems manageable. Now, interestingly, they made a point of saying how well their supervision system is doing. And that's key, because supervision is not just another product for them, it's their path forward to those higher levels of autonomy. You've got lane keeping, adaptive cruise control, even some hands-free stuff, and these are becoming must-haves, not just nice-to-haves, for consumers.
So supervision is like their bread and butter for the future.
Exactly. It's where they're putting most of their energy, most of their resources. Speaking of which, their operating expenses, they're up year over year. They say it's because of those strategic investments, hiring more people, that whole Volkswagen partnership, and of course, pouring money into developing those core technologies.
And this is where it gets really interesting. If you want to understand what Mobileye's long game is, they're saying a huge chunk of those expenses, something like $600 million, is going towards things that, well, they haven't even hit the market yet, or they're just getting started.
That's a serious commitment to their vision. They're not letting these short-term problems stop them from what they really want to achieve. It suggests they have a lot of faith in the stuff they're working on.
Okay, so they're playing the long game. But what is that game? Let's go back to their IPO. They had big plans. Own the ADS market, go big in new markets, China especially, and really push the limits with stuff like supervision and that even more advanced chauffeur system.
Ambitious then, ambitious now. And as we've seen, those ambitions have hit some roadblocks. But even with those problems, Mobileye's still saying they're making great progress. But how much of that is real progress and how much of it is just, spin?
And that's what we're here to unpack. A big part of that is their IQ6 chip. This is the foundation for all those next-gen products they're betting on. They're incredibly confident in their AI. They even held those technical presentations recently, really getting into the weeds on how it all works.
They're all in on this compound AI approach, saying it's the best way to make AI work for self-driving. Basically, they're combining different AI approaches like deep learning with reinforcement learning, saying it gives you the best balance of precision, efficiency, and the ability to handle whatever the road throws at it. It's complicated stuff, but the bottom line is they think this approach will help them build systems that are not just powerful, but that can handle the real world.
So it's about building a smarter AI, not just a faster one.
Right, and they're positioning themselves as the leaders in this, which is a big statement, especially with the competition out there.
Speaking of competition, this is where things get juicy. Everyone was focused on them dominating 8As and that whole fight for market share in China. But quietly, Mobileye's been putting resources into something else. Robotaxis. And I don't mean just dipping their toes in. I mean really investing in it.
It's a head-scratcher at first glance. Why would they do that, given everything else they're doing? But then you look at the bigger picture. Robotaxis are hot right now. Waymo's making serious moves with their ride-hailing service, and Tesla's making all sorts of noise about their robotaxi plans. So is Mobileye just jumping on the bandwagon? Or do they actually have a chance to compete?
Is this a smart way to diversify and get a piece of a potentially huge market? Or is it spreading themselves too thin, especially with everything else going on?
And maybe more importantly, do they have what it takes to go up against Waymo and Tesla? These companies have been laser focused on robotaxis for years. They've got the data, the real-world experience. It's a tall order for Mobileye to catch up. Welcome back to the show.
So where were we? Oh yeah, Mobileye. It's a bit of a mixed bag right now, isn't it?
It certainly is. You've got those production issues, the whole China situation, but they're also investing heavily in the future of autonomous driving, and they don't seem to be backing down from their ambitions.
It's this weird combination of short-term problems and long-term plans that make Mobileye so interesting to follow, especially for investors trying to figure out what to do.
Exactly. It's a real head-scratcher.
And speaking of investors, that stock jump we talked about, the market seems to be ignoring those short-term issues and buying into Mobileye's vision. But does that make sense? Or is it just hype?
Well, the market can be pretty unpredictable sometimes, right? It can be driven by emotions just as much as facts. But I think there might be something more to it this time. Mobileye is still the top dog when it comes to ADAs. Their technology is really impressive.
So investors are basically betting that these problems are just temporary and that Mobileye will still be successful in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. They're looking past the revenue drop and focusing on the potential of all those investments they're making in R&D. If Mobileye can get past this China problem and deliver on those new technologies, they could come out even stronger. They could end up dominating not just ADS, but those new markets like robotaxis too.
That's a big if, though, right? There are some serious risks here. We already talked about China, but what about all the other companies they're competing with? And what about Tesla?
Ah, yes. Tesla. They're a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. They've got that brand power, the customers who love them, and a CEO who isn't afraid to shake things up. Mobileye needs to show they can innovate just as fast as Tesla and get people excited about their technology the same way.
It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how people see you. Tesla's got that cool, cutting-edge image. Mobileye is seen as more of a traditional company. They need to change that and convince everyone that they're not just a reliable supplier, but a real innovator.
Exactly. They need to tell their story better and explain what makes them special in a way that really connects with people. Consumers, investors, potential partners, everyone.
And they need to do it quickly. Things are moving so fast in the autonomous driving world. New companies are popping up, others are merging. The technology is constantly changing. Mobileye can't just sit back and relax.
Absolutely. In this industry, it's all about execution. It's not enough to have good ideas. You need to be able to turn those ideas into products that people actually want and that work the way they're supposed to. We've seen a lot of companies with promising technology stumble when it comes to actually making something people can buy.
So what should investors be looking out for in the coming months? What are the signs that Mobileye is on the right track?
Keep an eye on who they're signing deals with. Getting those big car companies to use their advanced systems like Supervision and Chauffeur is really important. Every new deal is a sign that people trust their technology and that they're making progress.
Speaking of big events, they've got that Capital Markets Day in December, right? They've been hinting at some pretty big announcements.
Yeah, that's going to be one to watch. They're talking about giving real-world demos of their technology, updates on those big partnerships, and even some insights into their robotaxi plans. If they can deliver on all that and get people talking, it could really help their image and give investors more confidence.
Sounds like they're going all out for this. What are you most interested in hearing about?
I'm really curious about those imaging radar systems they've been working on. They're saying it can be even better than LiDAR and cheaper too, which is a bold claim. If they can prove it, that could be a real game changer for them.
So they're facing some challenges right now, but they're playing the long game. They're making big bets on the future, and they want to be a major player in this whole autonomous driving revolution. But it's a tough business, there's a lot of competition, and no one knows what the future holds.
This earnings call was more than just numbers. It gave us a look into a company that's thinking big, thinking about the future, and willing to push the limits.
And that's what makes them so interesting. We don't know if they'll be able to achieve their goals, but it's going to be fascinating to watch them try.
So for everyone listening, here's the key takeaway. Mobileye is changing. They're dealing with a lot of uncertainty, but they're also going after a goal that could change how we live, work, and get around.
And that's worth paying attention to. Keep an eye on Mobileye. They're not just building a company, they're building the future.
That's right.
And you know what? This whole China thing, I think it might be a blessing in disguise.
Oh, really? That's an interesting take. Tell me more.
Think about it. They got a little too comfortable relying on the Chinese market. This setback is forcing them to rethink their strategy, become more resilient.
I see what you mean. It's like a wake-up call.
Exactly. And now they're doubling down on what they do best. Cutting-edge technology. Plus, they're diversifying, exploring new markets, even dipping their toes into those robotaxis we talked about.
It's like they're saying, okay, China, you want to play hardball? Fine, we'll just go build the future somewhere else.
And let's not forget that parking system they're developing for Zeekr. They lost the big ADS contract, but they're still working with them. That's smart.
Absolutely. It keeps them in the game, keeps the data flowing, and who knows, maybe they can turn that loss into a win.
Shows they're flexible, they're willing to adapt. That's important in any business, but especially in this one where things are changing so fast.
It tells you something about their leadership, too. They're not afraid to make tough decisions, pivot when they need to, and find a way forward.
So yeah, the China thing is a setback, no doubt. But maybe, just maybe, it'll push them to be even more innovative, even more successful in the long run.
It's definitely a story we'll be following closely. This is just the beginning of a new chapter for Mobileye, and we'll be here to break it all down for you.
As we're wrapping this up, I keep thinking about something. What if all these different things, the ADS stuff, those advanced systems, even those robotaxi plans, what if they're all part of something bigger?
I like where you're going with this. It's easy to get lost in the details, but yeah, what if Mobileye is playing a different game altogether?
So, what if they're not just trying to be a leader, but to become the platform for autonomous driving?
Right.
Imagine a future where cars aren't just cars. They're data centers on wheels, constantly collecting info, talking to each other, making decisions in real time.
Right. So instead of just focusing on parts of the puzzle, they're trying to build the whole puzzle. They want to be the operating system for the whole ecosystem, the cars, the infrastructure, the smart cities, everything.
And they're in a good spot to do it, right?
Yeah.
With all their AI expertise, the perception stuff, the mapping.
Exactly. It's not just chips and software. It's a whole network, a web of vehicles, infrastructure, data. It's like
the nervous system for the future of mobility.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about cars, right? Think about public transport, delivery trucks, even how cities are planned. This kind of platform could change everything. Make transportation safer, more efficient, more eco-friendly.
That's a pretty amazing vision, but it's a long way off, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. This isn't happening tomorrow. But they're laying the groundwork now. Every partnership, every new tech, every piece of data they collect, it's all a step towards that goal.
So even those setbacks, like that whole Zeekr thing in China, those are just learning experiences, part of the process.
Exactly. They're trying things out, making adjustments, figuring out what works. It's a constantly evolving landscape, and they have to evolve with it.
This is why this earnings call was so important. It wasn't just about numbers. It was about understanding how this company thinks. They're thinking big, they're thinking long-term, and they're not afraid to take risks.
They're definitely a company to watch. Who knows if they'll pull it off, but it's going to be one heck of a ride.
So for everyone listening, here's the bottom line. Mobileye is at a crossroads. They're dealing with some tough challenges, but they're also going after a goal that could change the world as we know it.
Pay attention to Mobileye. They're not just building a company, they're building the future.
That's it for our deep dive into Mobileye. We hope you learned something new today, maybe even got you thinking about the future of transportation. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring.